This morning, Facebook's oversight board announced they will uphold the platform's decision to suspend former President Trump following his role in the January 6th insurrection.
Here to discuss is one of the co-chairs of that oversight board and the former Prime Minister of Denmark, Helle Thorning-Schmidt. Thank you for being with us, Prime Minister. And this is a newly formed oversight committee that was formed back in 2020, actually, as sort of a Supreme Court for free speech. So tell us how these deliberations take place and how you came to today's verdict.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here with you today. Well, first of all, on the decision, we have decided that Facebook was right to take Mr. Trump off the platform on the 7th of January. But we have also been very firm with Facebook in telling them that it wasn't right to give an indefinite penalty. Facebook must follow its own rules. It's asking of everyone else to follow the rules, and it must follow their own rules. And it's not in Facebook rules to give an indefinite penalty. So now we've given Facebook 6 months to go back and look at this again and follow their own rules, which is either a permanent suspension or to look at a time-bound suspension and then look whether they can take Mr. Trump back on the platforms again.
But you're still putting it in Facebook's hands. You all don't necessarily have a recommendation for what should happen. Are we hearing you right?
Well, we haven't given Facebook a recommendation on what penalty they should give. We've said that they were right to take Mr. Trump off the platforms, but we have also said that to give a penalty which is not in their own rules is not right. It is not transparent. It is not clear. And they must take this case back and look whether the user, in this case, Mr. Trump, still imposes a harm, any harm, and then they must decide whether they want to take Mr. Trump permanently off the platform or suspend him in a definite period of time, which are their normal tools when they want to sanction their users. And what we're basically saying, and I want to reiterate this, that this is more a case about Facebook and how they treat their users than it is about Trump. And what we're saying to Facebook is that they must treat their users according to their own rules, and they must treat their users equally.
Now, the way this board works, I know you don't have to have a unanimous decision to reach a verdict. It just requires a simple majority. How close was this verdict?
Well, it's hard to say because it is like we're 20 people. We discuss these cases and we all have our own opinions. And all the sentences, I wouldn't be able to sign all the sentences, say they are just what I wanted. But we found compromises on most of what is in our decision. So there was a minority positions, it's in the decision, but we had a good majority behind this decision, and we all agreed that Facebook was right in excluding Mr. Trump on that day, the 7th of January. And then there were some minor disagreements along the way in our decision. But it is a board where every voice is heard, and finally we reach a decision, and this is our decision today. And
you emphasize that this wasn't really, of course, a lot of attention because this has to do with former President Trump, but you're saying this wasn't not necessarily just about him. So in you all's opinion, should there be, I don't want to say a different rule, but are you recommending, do you suggest that Facebook handles public figures, celebrities, people with bigger audiences, or even world leaders any differently than the average Joe?
The interesting thing about this case is that we actually asked Facebook whether they had applied the so-called newsworthiness criteria into this case, and they said that they had not. So they had actually not treated Mr. Trump differently than any other user. But when they gave the sanction, they suddenly started doing that. And what we are saying to Facebook is it was fine. They took the right decision on the 7th of January. But from now on, they have to go back and put a sanction to Mr. Trump, which is of course where they assess the harm that Mr. Trump might cause on Facebook and Instagram, but where they also give a penalty and a sanction which is in line with their own rules.
All right, well, we will hear more about this one. It's a fascinating read. We've been reading the decision this morning, but thank you for spending some time with us. Facebook's Oversight Board co-chair, Helle Thorning-Schmidt. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.